I was really surprised at how much of the Spy Museum was about stuff you can put in your butt.
Go on.
Like there were, it came up a lot is all I'm saying.
It's not the intro I was expecting. You said, hey, we're going to talk about the Spy Museum for this cold open. And I was like, all right, kick it off.
Okay. So the number one topic at the Spy Museum, probably Osama bin Laden. They're very enthusiastic about like Osama bin Laden, to the point that my daughter was like, who is Osama bin Laden and why do these people care so much about him?
Big W for them, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, she's 10. So like, you know, ancient history to her. Mm-hmm. And so we had to explain, like we had to go through and explain 9/11 and like, you know, Islamophobia in the United States and the fact that a guy named Barack Hussein Obama was responsible for killing the other guy. It was a lot for a 10-year-old is all I'm saying.
Sure.
But the part of the Spy Museum that was very popular, she was very enthusiastic about, was, wow, spies put a lot of stuff in their butt. It came up over and over and over again, Brad. They had things you could touch so you could see the relative size of the thing that the like the escape kit, your emergency kit you would store.
Were these touchables pre-inserted? Do we know? Were these from the field?
These looked like casts of actual devices, not the pre-inserted devices. Mm-hmm. There was a section that talked about custom things that people would want to put in their rectally inserted kits.
Okay.
There was a lot on like cameras you could store. There was a prototype of a scrotal prosthetic that you could hide a camera and some microfilm in. Like it was a surprising amount of butt stuff. That's all I'm saying. But the Spy Museum, pretty cool, little propaganda-y.
Cameras I can see. I have to ask.
Yes.
Were there any insertable firearms?
I don't know if I remember seeing an insertable firearm. I definitely saw things you could use to stab somebody or like choke somebody out with in the butt kits.
That's
lockpicks, files, escape implements were very popular.
Anything sharp goes in there. You're putting a lot of faith in its enclosure to maintain its integrity.
Dude, it was really big. It was like the size of they looked like pills, but the kind of pills you would feed like a small dinosaur, maybe like mid-sized dinosaur. Yeah. Way bigger than a horse pill.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Like I'm talking like 4 inches by 2.5 inches diameter, probably.
Wait, hang on. Are you saying the CIA has dinosaurs?
No, I'm saying they have dinosaur pills for your butt. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. Welcome back.
They had a lot of stuff that wasn't about going in your butt too, for what it's worth. You got to. I crawled through some air ducts.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm not trying to gate the most interesting content behind the paywall, but we should talk more about this on the Patreon episode because this sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I was in DC for some family stuff last week, and we took a couple of days and went to some museums and like I'm gonna say I've spent a lot of summers in DC as a kid and as an adult. Easily the most pleasant weather-wise we've ever had. When we got downtown, we like walked from L'Enfant Plaza to the Washington Memorial, to the Washington Monument rather, and then all the way down past the reflecting pool to the Lincoln Monument, and like did the whole Simpsons thing where we went up and saw the statue of Abraham Lincoln and everybody's yelling stuff at him.
Wait, are they?
People in a way that I didn't appreciate as a child, the Lincoln Memorial is like, it's a very awe-inspiring, thought-provoking place because the statue of Lincoln is huge, right? It's the only thing in the room. On one side is, I think, his second inaugural address, and on the other side is the Gettysburg Address. And then when you go out and look at the stairs to go back down, you see the Washington Monument reflected, standing tall above you, 555 feet above you, and then also reflecting back into the reflecting pool. And like at the cross point of the Washington Monument and the Capitol and the Lincoln Memorial. On to your right is the Jefferson Memorial, and on the left is the White House, right? So it's like you feel like the center, the heart of American democracy, right there. It feels like the point at which we started getting things right instead of making them worse.
It's reverential, let's say.
Yeah. But it was a long walk, so we rented some of those electric scooters and rode them back to the hotel because everybody's feet were tired. Yeah,
that sounds nice. I also have been to DC in the summer a handful of times, and my God, is it a swamp? So
yeah, usually like end of June in DC, you step outside away from air conditioning, and it immediately feels like you're standing behind a bus.
All I can think about when I'm there is all the people who have to wear suits all day in that heat.
I did that for 2 summers. It was it was sweaty. People, and that was kind of before you would like go to the gym and change clothes at the gym and ride the train home in like gym clothes. People just packed onto the metro tight as you can, sweating. No AC on the trains back then either, if I remember right. Anyway, DC is nice. I love DC.
Yeah. It's been 2016 was the last time we took a traveling vacation other than me seeing family.
Yeah.
It's been way too long. But like if I had like unlimited free time, like a week in DC at least, just go to every museum and look at everything in every museum is like one of the number one things I would do.
I'm going to tell you, I am the most. It turns out we also learned in this trip that I enjoy museums much more than the other members of my family.
I could see that.
I could have spent. We went to American History. We went to the Spy Museum. We went to Udvar Hazy again out at the Air and Space Extension out at Dulles. And then we went to a bunch of like government stuff because my daughter's going to 5th grade next year, and that's the first American history year. So we wanted her to see like the Capitol, and we stood on the stairs of the Supreme Court and like looked at the stuff there. And
that's where you should be shouting.
I mean, look, the protest barricades look like they never go down there now. Mm-hmm. We went to the White House and stood on Pennsylvania Avenue and like talked about that. We went to Black Lives Matter Plaza, which is 2 blocks back from the White House, where the mayor of DC painted Black Lives Matter in 20-foot high letters on the road a block from Trump's house when he was bitching about the protests. Yeah. And it's just it makes me really bummed how shitty we are at public transportation in San Francisco, because like Metro, if you can walk a mile everywhere in like the places I want to be in DC is accessible on Metro.
Sure.
And it's like $2 when you get on anywhere in town pretty much.
Yeah. So to be fair, you don't live there though. Like I'm sure people who have to live on the outskirts getting to that stuff is maybe a bigger pain.
Well, I mean, it's like 45 minutes in from the outreaches to the downtown area, but yeah, it's a lovely city to visit.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm quite jealous. We will talk about it more.
Yeah. Patreon episode. Patreon.com/techpod. We'll record that probably early next week would be my guess because we're coming up on the end of the month. Mm-hmm. What it's the end of the month though, Brad. What does that mean something? I feel like it's been a while since we've done this and I can't remember what that might mean. If you have any ideas.
Y'all got any inquiries for us?
You mean missives?
Uh-huh.
A communique?
Questions.
It's
been like 2 weeks since we recorded and I feel rusty. I'm like trying to think of something to say here. And I'm like, what are some synonyms for questions? I got nothing. Let's just say questions.
Yeah, questions. If you have an email, you can send it to techpod@content.down. We got a couple good emails this month, but I feel like the email side was slacking this go round. So
that's, it's as you just said, we're getting into the summer months. People got better things to do. They're out there listening to podcasts while moving around, and you can't exactly type a question and send it in.
I did listen to podcasts on the airplane. I will admit that.
Yeah.
While playing Diablo in the sky.
Okay. That we need to talk about at some point.
Yeah. In the future.
Yes. But for now, we will get to these questions.
Yeah. If you have you can also, if you're in the Discord, you can also go to the Questions Seeking Answers channel and post your missive there. And we may or may not answer it depending on the content and our relative whim on any given day. Brad, you got our first cue lined up to turn into an A?
Here's a question straight from Discord from Jack W 2610. I found a 10-year-old Lego Star Wars set in my parents' house, still in its box, sealed, and it has increased in value from $20 to almost $500. Do I open or sell it?
Sell.
I don't think I could. I personally would probably not do either.
You just hold on?
Definitely not going to open it. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no. If you find a 10-year-old unopened Lego set, the 10-year-old Star Wars Lego set is about the time I started buying Star Wars Lego. So that means that the Lego in my garage is I probably need to increase my homeowner's insurance if I'm guessing I would sell and buy a current more expensive set because that's about to go out of print.
But then would you open that one?
Nope.
It's just how many times can you complete this cycle in one human lifespan?
Look, I'm going to go and tell you there was a period of time before we had kids when we bought a lot of Lego and we did not build all of the Lego. And there's a couple of unopened boxes in there that are probably I should probably actually go out and look at them and see what they're worth so I can put them on eBay.
Yeah, that seems like maybe the thing to do. I don't think I would be able to do either of these. I definitely wouldn't open it, but I also would probably just want to sit on it for another 10 years and see how much it was worth then.
And yeah. I mean, the other option would be to buy two almost out of print $250 sets now and then sit on one for 10 years and sit on the other one for 20 years and see which one you make more money on.
Seems like you might have a budding career as a full-time Lego broker.
Well, I mean, you saw the thing that Gizmodo does where they show whether like the leading mutual funds or buying Lego is the better investment.
No, is it real? Wow, I didn't realize it was that lucrative.
It's pretty good. If you pick the right sets, you can do pretty well.
It's
okay. Not a tax. You have to pay taxes though. It's not like a 401k or something.
Sure. That sounds like a fun side hustle maybe.
Yeah, maybe I'll go hit the garage and start selling Lego. There we go. What else we got?
Question from Warbird. My retired parents' laptop is on its last legs, and I've stumped enough for them to get something with decent build quality and few enough moving parts that it'll hopefully last a while. A MacBook Air. How would you suggest onboarding? Your name is okay.
Oh, sorry, I keep highlighting idly. My bad.
Your cursor was flitting to and fro in the middle of this question in the Google Doc, and the pop-up with your name on it was blocking the text.
I'm sorry.
I could not read it.
So, okay, go ahead and finish the question.
Okay.
We'll digress.
How would you suggest onboarding someone into Mac OS who has only even known Windows in a slightly adversarial context? So both of my parents use MacBooks.
Yeah. But they always use MacBooks?
No, but they did start. Gosh, it's been enough years now. Like, but my answer here is nothing, because like my mom worked with computers through her career. Like she's reasonably computer savvy already. My dad not at all. And even he kind of needed nothing. He's sort of never asked me for help, like learning how to use a MacBook and Mac OS.
So when I had this situation about 10 years ago, my mom is pretty competent with Windows XP. And as a result, Windows 7 was also pretty easy. When the shift to Windows 8 and 10 happened, she got lost in Windows. And I think my brother-in-law is actually still maintaining a Windows 7 computer for her that he just has firewalled out the ass, and she can basically run a browser on.
I was going to say,
it's not great.
Some end of life action there.
Yeah. The thing when this happened to my dad, who was a fairly proficient computer user, like he used computers for work and was able to get around. Mom mostly just lived inside her bookkeeping software. Dad was good at the phone. So I was just like, you should just get an iPad. And he's got an iPad and a case with a keyboard on it and has been using that combo for the last 10 years at this point, almost, maybe more. Mom is mostly phone and really doesn't use the computer much these days.
I think the giant, very nice trackpad with fairly intuitive gesture based input has gone a long way to making MacBooks approachable for people who don't know computers.
I can see that. I feel like so my mom lived basically in browsers and eBay because she sold a bunch of stuff on eBay for fun. And I think that shifting to something else, like the change in file dialogues would have been more than she wanted to deal with, right? Or change in how the printer works and stuff like that would have been a bit much for her. Also, my parents are very cheap, so they wouldn't have bought MacBooks, I don't think.
Fair.
Like when Dad would come in with the $250 Best Buy Chromebook, and he was like, is this a good laptop? I was like, no, it's not. You don't want this. And then you buy it and get pissed off at it and take it back. And I would hear about it from my sister. So, can we talk about my idle clicking while we're in a shared document?
Sure.
When I'm talking on the computer, I often just highlight stuff idly without thinking about it. And when we were doing a FOSSPOD episode, we learned that Brad thought when I did that it meant that I was suggesting in the next question the next direction of questioning we should go.
I thought that was some very clever, subtle suggestion.
So we do that now because that was a good idea. But I think the first probably 5 or 6 episodes of the FOSSPOD were mainly directed by my idle clicking without any kind of mistakes.
I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that's got a nervous computer habit. Mine is right clicking the Windows desktop and clicking refresh. I may have mentioned this before.
No.
Like I'll just do that over and over and over.
Do you have icons on your Windows desktop?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's the first thing I turn off.
What's the point of a desktop if you can't put things on it?
It's just another folder. It's the
weird.
catch-all folder.
It's weird. I refuse to put things on my real physical desktop, but my virtual desktop is cluttered as hell.
I wonder how many icons I have on my desktop.
I think we've run this exercise before, to be fair.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
But I do the right click refresh thing like rapidly enough in some cases that sometimes somebody will be like, well, who's doing all that clicking? And it's like, oh, wait, sorry. Didn't even realize I was doing it.
You can break the noise gate. Man, that is a lot of icons. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Okay.
View, unclick, show desktop icon. Problem solved.
I will say, since I went to this new machine, my desktop is much cleaner. I've been trying to make more of an effort to keep the downloads and desktop cleaner than before. I have 28 icons on the desktop.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
And a good number of those are subject to deletion soon.
I continue to be annoyed that seemingly every application installs shortcuts on my desktop.
That is inappropriate, I would say.
Yeah.
You know what else might be inappropriate?
This next question?
This question from Fortune Pants.
Oh, yeah.
Is it ever acceptable to wear shoes when sitting on a sofa? I feel like there's a lot to unpack here.
Sitting implies that your feet are on the floor. So I would say it's always acceptable to wear shoes.
Well, but then that's part of the thing to unpack here is it's definitely not a popular opinion where we come from originally.
Yeah.
But I am 1000% in the shoes don't belong in the house life at this point.
I've had an inside dog for most of the last 20 years.
Sure.
So
see how like that ship would have sailed already.
Yeah, it's like that. We lost that battle, but I've Mr. Rogers my life. Also, by the way, I saw Mr. Rogers' sweater and shoes in the American History Museum.
Oh, wow.
That was a moment.
I wonder how many he owned.
It seemed, I believe, a bunch because he had different colors for sure.
A closet full.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen the closet. It's on TV.
Oh,
he goes in and he takes his jacket off. He puts the jacket in the closet. He takes the sweater. I think there's only ever one. Anyway, I have shoes that are mostly inside shoes.
Okay. Like shoes that you don't wear in the house are fine in the house.
Yeah. I have they're like Cloud Foam Adidas slip-on tennis shoes. And they're like, I got them when I started doing the standing desk, honestly. So I was comfortable when I was standing. It's like my normal slippers aren't great standing.
If this question is in any way about putting your shoes on the couch, though,
fuck that.
I don't even know how that's even a question.
Nope. Don't put your shoes on the couch. Worst case, dangle them off the side if you feel like, but also don't put your shoes on the couch.
Yeah. Just don't.
Were you raised in a barn?
Don't answer that. All right. Here's a question that I am excited to come up with an answer for from Harnow. I'm currently the tech advisor, in quotes. I'm guessing those are sneer quotes.
Oh, boy.
I'm currently the tech advisor for a small, low-funded volunteer fire and ambulance department. Our door systems run on software that is Windows XP, and there are no easy ways to update the hardware. The computer we interface with the doors is, for lack of a better word, dying. What do you recommend? Is a virtual machine running XP the best solution? Buying another XP computer doesn't seem reasonable.
Depending on how the hardware interface is, a virtual machine running XP should probably work. If it's like USB or serial or something, that should be pretty easy.
That's probably my biggest question there is, what is the hardware connection to the doors? Because if there's, like, I can't imagine there's some like add-in card involved there, right?
I would be shocked, but even if there is an add-on card, you should be able to still access it from the VM if you have the right virtual machine software.
Yeah.
I would.
That does seem like the best solution, but
I would be willing to bet that this is a problem that somebody else has already solved.
Yeah.
Like I would start by Googling the name of the door controller and like Windows 10 and see what people are doing to solve that problem.
Another thing that comes to mind that I think we may have talked about briefly before is the WeC. Do you remember talking about that?
Yeah, but I don't remember what it is.
It's kind of a homebrew project, sort of. It's repurposing. I just pulled it up here. It was kind of bespoke. It was made by a YouTuber, I want to say, out of this a Vortex 86 CPU module.
Oh,
which is essentially, I'm actually reading from the page here. It's based around the iCOP Vortex 86 CPU module, which is a Pentium class x86 compatible embedded system on module that is intended for industrial control.
Oh, so it's exactly for this sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's tiny. It's like it's a tiny little board, and basically the WeC is just they made an enclosure for it and made the ports nicely accessible and stuff. That sounds like it might be a little too slow for Windows XP. Maybe, I don't know. Actually, I think when they, the Pentium brand spans like 25 years at this point or more, but I think this is early Pentium. I think this is like 586, like post 486 era.
Like early pre-Nehalem, pre-Core, all that stuff, probably, right?
The people using it for old gaming are like putting DOS and Windows 95 or 98 on it, so I don't know that it could quite do XP, but the point is there are hardware x86 options out there that are small and embedded that might actually
do what you want,
solve this problem, but a VM maybe also.
Yeah. So the other thing is you can also buy this is the reason that a lot of industrial places keep all of the old computers around and just chuck them into a storage room someplace, is so that when they have an industrial machine that runs Windows XP and is like air gapped from the real internet, you just rob another part from the graveyard to keep that machine going.
Yeah. That is actually another option here, is that finding a new Windows XP machine might not be as hard as you think, because it seems like, I don't have any places to recommend, but it seems like I see more and more people online just saying like, hey, I just got these 3 Pentium 2 era machines for $20. Like there's tons of like e-waste recyclers and places around now that'll just like offload whole computers from that era for very cheap.
Yeah, you can get a Dell i5 for $84 that runs Windows XP on eBay.
Yeah, that might be an option. Of course, he did say this is a not especially well-funded fire department.
Well, but presumably they're gonna have to buy some sort of computer. You can, I think that's the thing I would do if you can is put together. It's unfortunate because like ideally you'd want to have something that doesn't have a bunch of moving parts in it, right? So you do like a SSD or something, but I don't think you're going to find a SSD. Maybe we can find a SATA SSD that would work with a machine that old. I don't know. It's an interesting problem. I'd love to hear how you solve it when you get there. But I would start by like literally Googling the model number and seeing what other people are doing, because somebody else has had the same problem. Because that is exactly the kind of hardware that you don't replace until you absolutely, just because Windows XP is out of support.
Yep.
And then, and I would also be careful because you don't want to have the fire department doors stuck if your software doesn't work right.
Yeah. I'm almost surprised that there's software or computers involved there at all. That seems like something that you need 100% reliability on.
Probably interfaces with the alarm stuff.
Yeah, fair.
Their dispatch or whatever. So anyway,
fair.
Thanks for writing in though.
Yeah, that was a cool one. All right. I was afraid to take this one because I don't know that I'm equipped to answer it, but you wrote an answer here, so I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
From Pineapple Pincushion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've mentioned we're probably going to do some kind of passkey episode in the near future because that seems like the thing in password security. Like everybody is rolling out a passkey solution all of a sudden. If passkeys are based on biometrics, and biometrics, which are something you have, can be compelled by a court as compared to a password, which is something you know, which they cannot compel. How does that make You're doing it again.
Sorry, shit.
You literally did it again.
I'm just clicking along with you.
It's like clockwork. Your name just appears right over the sentence that I'm in the middle of reading.
Hello, Brad.
You're gonna okay. All right. All right. Let's keep it together for 10 seconds.
Yep. I'm controlling it. Controlling myself.
To summarize what they're asking about here, the legal standard is that. Okay, let me make sure I have this straight. Actually,
yeah.
It's the thing you have that they can legally compel you to hand over. Correct.
Well, I mean,
but the thing that you know they cannot.
Well, so yeah. The question is, how are passkeys better than passwords?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't actually finish the question. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's my fault. How are passkeys better than passwords if, say, a court or a person can compel you to give up the thing you know, the biometric token, which is a fingerprint or a face scan or iris scan or whatever future biometric scan thing it is.
Is it possible that the answer to this question is they're not better, that in fact you are giving up some security for convenience here?
Well, so what I was going to say is the reason passkeys are better than passwords is that most people use shit passwords. Okay. If you're already using a good password manager and you have a good password on your password manager and the password manager is running its stuff well, meaning they're not using the same same encryption key for millions of things, or what they're not salting the passwords inside the database or whatever it happens to be, your passkeys are going to be better. Like passkeys are better for most people because they're better than the passwords that most people use.
Okay.
Now, the way passkeys work, and this is a simplification, we'll do a whole episode about it later because it's really interesting, is there's a central provider that says, I have a key, and then you have a key. Your key is locked behind biometrics. The central provider has the other key. When you unlock your key, it sends it to the central provider, and they look at themselves and they match. And if they match, then the site that you're trying to log into is sent a token from the central provider that says, hey, you can log into this site. That's much better than your password that's PA55W0RD, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Or server.
Yeah, or no, yeah, whatever. There's a bazillion terrible fucking passwords. Now, the real question here is can you be compelled to give up to unlock your phone either by police without a warrant, by a court with a warrant, or by some bad actor who has your person and your phone, right? The answer to that is it's complicated. There's no federal precedent about whether you can't be compelled to give up your password for your phone. But legally speaking, somebody can break your fingers until you give them the password, and they're like,
sure.
Like with a lot of torture in the Spy Museum too, by the way. Big whole sections on torture.
Yikes!
It was presented in a mostly negative context. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
one would hope.
Somebody convince you to give up your password. Somebody can physically force you to touch your finger onto a fingerprint sensor. Most phones that do face unlock won't unlock if you're not looking at the phone. So you can hold the phone up in front of yourself and stare at it and it won't do it. Also, like Android does this as well, but on the iPhone, if you smash the power button 5 times, you think you're about to get pulled over by the cops, it won't unlock without a passcode at that point. So you can, there's all sorts of stuff on that front. Whether the courts can compel you to give over a biometric ID under warrant varies on a state-by-state basis in the United States and is all over the place in the rest of the world. So if you're really worried about this, you should lock your passkeys behind a passcode because that's protected, because that's a Fifth Amendment thing in the US at least.
Doesn't that defeat the convenience factor though of the passkey?
I mean, if you're worried about court orders that are going to make you unlock your phone, then you probably are willing to type in a 6-digit number.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah,
fair. There's a lot there. going on.
It is wildly complicated. It's funny. There's been a couple of cases. I did some reading about this morning. There've been a couple of cases at the Supreme Court that would have established a federal precedent on this that the Supreme Court has declined to take over the last 10 years. And like, everybody's just kind of waiting. This is part of the reason that like Apple is doing end-to-end encryption on stuff that you upload to iCloud and all that, so that they don't actually have the keys and can't be compelled to give them. And then it's entirely on the user and their legal battle at this point. The one nice thing is if the cops do, the good thing about this is if this ever happens and you get your phone searched and you think it's an illegal search and you make your case well and you hire really expensive lawyers, you might get to go to the Supreme Court. Who knows?
Get your name on a precedent.
Yeah.
That's cited for the next several decades. That's interesting. I'm resisting the urge to ask more questions about this.
No, go for it. Because I read a whole shitload of articles this morning about it. So
we should save them for the full episode. I mean, the main one I'm curious about is if this is all adhering to one standard or if every provider has their own method of authenticating
for passkeys. For
passkeys, yeah.
So it's mostly done at a system level. So it's Apple, Microsoft, and Google for the most part.
Okay.
And they're using their versions of the biometric. So it's Windows Hello on the Microsoft side. It is as secure as your provider is. So like Windows Hello lets you use a face camera if you have the right kind of camera, or fingerprint sensor, or a passcode. The iPhone lets you use Touch ID or Face ID depending on the device, or a passcode, and same thing for Google. I think you can do the pattern on Google too, which turns out if you lock your phone with that and forget what the pattern is, it's insanely difficult to remember it.
That's for that. Yeah. I've got an Android phone in the drawer that I believe I'm on my last attempt on to remember the little swipey pattern to get into that phone.
I always did a G.
I don't think there's anything too valuable on there, thankfully. Also got that old Windows phone you gave me is in the exact same state, except that's an alphanumeric.
Oh,
I think the contents of both of those phones are lost forever.
I always did the same alphanumeric.
It was a very long time ago.
Yeah,
it's gone, sadly.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Let's see. Question from Bravenbark.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all archive or hoard any data that you do not produce, and why? For example, I have about 30,000 podcast episodes archived in case various networks or sites ever shut down. I do this because an old podcast from 2014 called Promptly Written is missing episode 17, which is an implicit cry for help. I have posted $100 bounties on multiple websites, but it doesn't seem to exist. Again, I'll say, just in case anybody maybe wants to help here, I guess this is episode 17 of a podcast called Promptly Written. Also, Gpodder is a little buggy with that many episodes, so if you know of a better podcatcher for Windows, I would appreciate it.
I try not to do this intentionally.
Yeah, I'm mostly there with you. Mostly.
Like I've ripped all of the DVDs and Blu-rays I've ever bought.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, stuff you buy, I think, is probably outside of this scope of this question. I think that's legit. Like, hey, you spent money on this, so you want to back it up. I think this is more just like publicly available data that probably isn't going to go away, but you never know. Like, actually, the more I think about this and the more we go through this, the less confident I am in saying it's probably never going to go away, because even stuff that really seems like it'll never go away often does.
Well, yeah, like it's funny. I went back to try to find a copy of a Maximum. Like I uploaded all of I got people to upload all of the Maximum PC archives through like 2010 to Google Books and archive.org. And even that stuff's hard to find, right? Like,
yeah,
like it's easy to lose all of that stuff
for sure. I mean, the obvious contemporary example is the ongoing Twitter disaster and the amount of historical material on Twitter that may just vanish at some point.
How many broken embeds there are on old articles, even at this point, from people who shut down their accounts now.
Yes. I mean, one that's close to home and much more in line with this question is that this may have changed recently, and if it has, I apologize. But last I checked, there are quite a few Giant Bomb podcasts that are currently inaccessible on Giant Bomb.
Really?
Yes. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but I've seen a whole lot of people saying the downloads have been broken for a bit. Again, they
Of like
may
old
have-
episodes?
Yeah, yes, these are like very years old, decade old podcasts, to be clear.
Well, I mean, yeah, like Tested shut down their podcast a few months ago, and all of that stuff's gone from their site now,
Right.
which is a bummer.
yeah, I mean, stuff like this, I think, has been archived pretty consistently. I'm sure all the Tested stuff is on archive.org or similar.
I believe somebody uploaded it all to archive.org.
But I tend to only archive stuff of this nature that I want to actively use off and on, like games, basically, like, you know, Mr. stuff. But I've been, maybe we'll talk about this on the Patreon episode. I'm kind of back down the Scum VM rabbit hole.
Ooh.
So I have been getting a lot of adventure game stuff from archive.org that I'm worried may not be as accessible in the future. For example,
it's funny. I feel like there's a certain level of game that is never like will always be around. Like there's a certain level of success.
sure. Yeah.
But then once you cross that threshold and get into like, I mean, like there's games that I played when I was a kid that I'm sure are not available now.
Yeah, for sure.
I
mean, you know, like obviously like Full Throttle, probably you're always going to be able to find. Zach McCracken, maybe not. I don't know. That's been fun actually. Is going through archive.org and looking at all the like re-releases of those games that happened over time.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I want to go get like the original version of King's Quest 7, or there's the Roberta Williams anthology that came out some years later that has like there's a 2.0 version of King's Quest 7 on there that I guess must have some stuff fixed in it and so forth. You know, stuff like that. Just like seeing the different sort of anthology and collection re-releases that happened over time.
Yeah, I like it's funny. I do have some stuff that I save when you say it like that. Like I like to collect glitchy when people upload the wrong video.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of for example, that Tom Cruise The Mummy trailer when they uploaded the 5.1 audio mix with no left and right channels to YouTube of the trailer, and it's just like
Sure.
no sound but smashing and sound. Like I have that. I save that one. I save stuff like that. That's what I save. It's not comprehensive.
I cannot knock it.
Yeah.
That's fun. Let's see here. You know, this. Well, wait, hang on. I was gonna say I have a question here from Brett G102 that kind of dovetails directly with this question, but then you wrote Patron Ep next to it. What does it mean?
Means we should talk about it in the Patreon app because they're asking about the. I mean, we can talk about it here. We can talk about the Patreon app too, because there's two parts of the question. Do you want to read it? Or you want me to? Okay.
Yes, from Brett G102. With the impending death of Reddit, do you have any thoughts on the consolidation of the internet to seemingly fewer locales? Scarily, these locales also fail to produce any profit and are increasingly in a doom spiral, with zero interest rates a thing of the past. We're all gathered on one of those money-burning platforms now. Any qualms about this community and its content one day just disappearing? Maybe we'll save that part for the Patreon app.
Yeah, I mean the TLDR is that there are Discord alternatives that are open now.
Yes,
which would be pretty trivial for us to move to if the free the free ride went away.
You're basically talking about the mastodon of Discord.
Yeah, I mean there's a couple. There have been a couple of projects that are in a pretty good spot now.
Yeah, I had been keeping up with them, and I've completely forgotten what they even are. I think Matrix is one of them.
Matrix is one of them, and there's another one that starts with R that I can't remember the name of.
It's not Rocket Chat, is it?
No, that I don't know about that one actually.
Rocket Chat, I think, is more of a Slack competitor. It's open source as well, but I think Rocket is more Slacky than Discordy.
Anyway, there are self-hosted alternatives to Discord. Discord's just convenient because you don't have to make a new account and you don't have to sign it. Like for people who are already, given that our people who are listening to this podcast probably are also into games based on age and demographics. People likely already have a Discord account. Is why we do Discord.
Yeah.
I do think that the overall move from these centralized services funded by venture capital and public that are public companies with all the expectations that comes with is a good thing, probably.
And with closed platforms.
Yeah. Like the diaspora from Twitter Reddit to Mastodon and Blue Sky and what Lemmy and all the different places that the Reddit communities are moving probably is ultimately a good, like, all this stuff is cyclical, right?
Yeah. Yes, we very much feel like the pendulum is swinging back toward the way things were in the late 90s to early this century of just like smaller communities everywhere, like, which has its pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
Like there is a downside to everybody not being on the same microblog anymore.
Well, and it's harder.
It impacts discoverability. Like some people are going to have a hard time getting noticed who are up and coming, or just people who like are hoping to find like-minded people. Like as things silo and are fractured, it's going to be harder it's just going to take more legwork like it did back in the day to like find communities that have what you're looking for.
Well, and it offloads the moderation from these funded entities to mostly volunteers, right? Like the moderation of these communities, especially once you cross a certain size, goes from being something that's like, hey, check this once or twice a week and hit a button or two, to rapidly increases to become full-time jobs with complicated questions that there aren't easy answers for.
Yeah.
And all the way up to having like legal overhead and liability when you cross certain thresholds, depending on the region that you live in and where your users are. So, you know, it really, the secret of Twitter and to a lesser extent Reddit and Facebook and all the other stuff is that they made moderation a business, right? And I think that is the thing. As a result, we have legislation that makes moderation a requirement for certain types of communities and online these days. And I think that we're going to see, like, that's the challenge as for this first wave of the diaspora away from the centralized social stuff. I honestly, I'm just really grateful that the crypto stuff flamed out before we reached this point, before people started actually branching off, so that people aren't trying to build all this stuff on the blockchain where it'll be slow, stupid, and expensive.
Yes, for sure.
And, you know, we're just doing it with good old MySQL databases.
Yep.
Postgres.
Yeah. Man, that Reddit stuff is, I mean, I'm not really addressing the policy here, but more the human factor around it, like the interviews with the CEO and everything. Like, more specifically what I'm talking about here is the idea that tech CEOs' bad behavior has just become mutually reinforcing at this point.
I mean, I think it's going to work itself out in Reddit's case, but
like basically like this was obvious before it got reported and confirmed that the mentality is essentially people looking at Musk and what he's doing with Twitter and basically saying like, yeah, we should do that too. Like, well, shit, if he can get away with it, then so can we.
You say that, but Twitter's valuation is probably a quarter what it was when he bought Twitter.
Yeah,
like if you look at Musk and what Musk has done to Twitter, and you're like, man, this is a really good idea. We should fucking do this with our moderately successful business. Like where I come from, turning a moderately successful business into a completely unsuccessful train wreck isn't a good fucking business decision.
No, I'm not saying it's going to pay off for them in the long term. It's just going to do untold amounts of collateral damage in the process. You know? It's like I don't know if you tried to follow any of the Russian insurrection stuff on Twitter last night.
It's impossible.
It's like the information environment is so poisoned at this point. Like, I mean, granted, this is an edge case where information coming out off of the ground is very hard to come by because it's a country with a non-existent free press and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like I think the source reporting even is pretty lacking in this case. But like trying to follow this major news event on Twitter last night was like, it made my head split open.
It's the first time there's been a major news thing happen since Twitter kind of went to shit. And it made me realize how important Twitter was for me in these times.
But that's more what I'm getting at. It's not like they're going to make all these shitty anti-user and anti-employee changes and are going to thrive with them. It's more just like, look at the damage they're going to do. On the way.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were like, there's a feeling as I get older of being, I want to say like, this is going to come out the wrong way, but I often feel kind of generally unemployable in a traditional sense. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I am not, if you look at job postings, there's not I don't know the new JavaScript framework that everybody's excited about. And I'm not going to contribute in that way. But I did spend 15 years telling people how the different ways that they would fuck up their businesses and was consistently right about it. And I feel generally pretty good about my ability to look at the options in front of us and pick the one that's least damaging, or maybe steer into things that will help us grow a business rather than shrink a business. And I don't like, these people desperately need those people in those roles, because like this is a complete, like the Reddit thing is a perfect example of an own goal, right? He's sitting here they have two in corporate America where you have shareholders to keep happy and you have users to keep happy, or customers to keep, traditional customers to keep happy. So they keep buying your shit. So the share price goes up. So the shareholders stay happy. So you keep your job. You have to respect those people who aren't the real business, but that are driving the business. And the thing that Reddit is not doing is that, and they're going to run off. They're going after the moderators because they think people hate the moderators. But as soon as the moderators are gone from those communities, the communities all start to crumble, because there's nothing worse than an unmoderated Reddit.
That's for sure.
So yeah, it's like you have to respect the users, and if you don't respect the users, then your entire thing will stop being which is what happened to Dig 15 years ago. It's like they don't fucking pay attention to the history of the internet.
Like, anyway, pleasing shareholders should be a passive trickle down consequence of pleasing users actively, right? Like
that's not how you get those $100 million bonuses, Brad.
Like what this seems so obvious.
Yeah.
Please the people who you need to keep the business going, and the people who want to make the money from it will be happy downstream of that.
Look, Brad, this is why we have a podcast that tens of thousands of people listen to instead of a website that hundreds of millions of people use.
Well, fair. Yeah. I mean, that really is the problem, right? Is that they're not just happy making the money. They want
all of it.
They want the money times 10.
And they want it to always be getting more.
Yes.
Always be growing the amount of money you're making.
Yes.
Anyway.
Let's see. I had another question. Okay. Well, we may have just covered this. Or we may have just answered this, but let's ask it anyway and see if there's any others we can come up with. Question from Cake Batter. It's halfway through the year. Can we get a prediction for tech oofs of the year?
There's no way it's not Twitter.
Yeah, he said, will Twitter remain number one, or do you think an upstart like Reddit can displace them by year end? It's impossible to imagine anything being worse than Elon Musk and Twitter.
I mean, look, now hold on. Is it impossible to imagine anything that's worse than Elon Musk and Twitter?
No, I mean, okay, that's a little bit of like that careless hyperbole, to be fair, which I engage in on the regular. But like, although I don't know if he's richest at the moment.
Not anymore, probably.
Well, I think he goes back and forth. I know he slipped to number 2 at some point, but like, you could argue that the world's richest person becoming an out and out Nazi,
fair,
is pretty hard to beat.
I think about. I mean, look, if Microsoft shipped some sort of malware with a Windows update, that'd be up there, because that actually impacts everybody instead of just like the people who are crazy enough to still be on Twitter 20 years in 2023. Mm-hmm. I can't think of. I mean, when Elon Musk gets called to Congress to testify about the self-driving fiasco that he's made over at Tesla, and he stands up and says, well, yeah, we figure if we kill 50,000 people to save 150,000 lives over the next 10 years, it's probably worth it. Like, that'd be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like the kind of shit he would do.
That would be pretty bad.
Yeah. I don't know, but maybe some tech bros like, let's make a real life version of the trolley problem and put it in an amusement park.
That would be pretty bad as well.
That would be pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't imagine anything's going to be worse. I hope to God nothing is worse than Twitter.
Yes. That would be pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we kind of already answered this, like seeing what has happened to that platform and the value that it had to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons that is now gone is pretty rough.
Yeah.
All right. Gosh, got a few more here. How about? All right, let's just keep going here. Let's just keep with the predictions and pie in the sky stuff. Here's another question from Warbird. What is a next 5 years tech development you are personally excited about? What about a next 10 plus years one?
What if there's an EMP that just breaks every computer in the world?
Does that count as a development?
I think it's a
I
development.
suppose that's a development in a negative direction.
I don't know. I've reached a point where I almost have a little bit of dread when people are like, hey, I have a great new idea for a thing. Right? Like,
yeah.
I'm not excited about what's happening with the AI. I feel unenthusiastic at best and profoundly worried at if I'm more real about it.
Yeah. I mean, here's a fairly minor one.
Okay.
But he did just ask for a development that you're excited about. We talked about I forget which episode it was on recently. You bought some Wi-Fi smart bulbs.
Yeah.
And I was all ready to go get some. And then I was reminded like, oh, wait, Matter and Thread are a thing. I told myself no more Internet of shit devices until they're all Thread. I'm pretty excited about that. Like I think I missed the Zigbee boat, and I kind of want to get all of those home automation things off of the Wi-Fi and onto their own thing.
Yeah, I'm going to have to figure out how to add more IP addresses to my subnet before too long.
Yeah, that's the thing I want to avoid. Like, I almost bought a 4-pack of those or 6-pack of the smart bulbs. And then I was like, do I really need all of these? Like, cluttering the Wi-Fi network with all of this.
Yeah, it's probably fine.
Seems like maybe, especially with the awful quality of the Wi-Fi signal in this place.
Well, that's true.
Cramming it full of devices isn't going to help. Thread is not there yet, though. It's getting there.
Yeah, I have a couple of Matter Thread devices that are, it's early.
Yeah.
Even just pairing them is more challenging. Like pairing them with an Apple device is a piece of cake. Pairing them with my Home Assistant is challenging.
Oh, interesting. I thought that was one of the things that Thread was supposed to make better, but I guess I should not have been so naive.
I think I've only tried it once. I didn't spend that much time with it. It was partly because I think the implementation on the Home Assistant side is a little bit early still, and partly because the device predates anything other than Apple and maybe Google having implementations. So I may need to connect it to an Apple device, update it, and then pull it off of the Apple device and put it onto the Home Assistant.
Yeah. Speaking of Home Assistant, something I don't know if you knew about this. I did not until I just stumbled on it at the end of a blog post from a few months ago. So you have a Home Assistant Yellow, like that's kind of their big new hardware thing.
Yeah.
They've also shipped the Zigbee/Thread functionality of that thing in a little $30 USB dongle.
Yeah, I had a similar device for my old Home Assistant installed that was just a Silicon Labs radio that plugged in. But
okay, so theirs uses a Silicon Labs chip, so maybe there are off-brand ones you could get as well. Theirs is called Sky Connect.
Yeah, mine predated the Matter and Thread stuff, so it wouldn't have worked with Matter and Thread.
The bummer is they're only supporting that thing on the full OS image install version of Home Assistant, as with a lot of their features. So anybody using the Docker version or the core version like me is kind of out of luck for now.
I will, having done both of those in the past, the full image one is way easier to maintain.
Yeah, I know.
It is the right solution for about 99% of people.
I know. I just don't want to get yet another device to put a thing on.
Look, man. It's not a device. It's a container for other devices.
You
want to do this email at the top?
What's that?
You want to do this email up at the top? I'm going to highlight it.
Okay. Yes. This is kind of related to the one we were talking about a minute ago. How should I spend my time on the internet? This is from Burton.
Hi, Burton.
I'm at a point where I'm not super interested in browsing social media with what's been happening with Reddit and their API changes. I think I'll use that as a point to break my habit of doom scrolling Reddit, but I don't really know what to do with my phone in my downtime anymore. Should I just get into reading books? Should I try and find some non-Reddit based forums? I've never used Discord. Should I figure out that world? If it's helpful context, I'm 32, so I'm at that cusp age where I remember not always having constant internet access, but I was in 8th grade when I got my non-smart first cell phone. 8th grade, I can't imagine. I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s. Yeah. 23 when I got my first cell phone.
I mean, I think this is the year my daughter gets her phone, probably, if I had to guess. Because it seems like 5th grade is when people get phones these days. I'm curious. I'm curious if people, what age did you get your kid's phone? If you have kids that are about my daughter's age. I've started sketching.
Okay. On the iPad?
Yeah, I just get the iPad and I grab a picture of something I want to learn how to draw. And then I use that to learn how to do the shading and stuff on it to make it look right. And then I try drawing it without the sketch behind it on the onion skin. And it always looks bad, but it's pretty fun.
The more you do something, the better you get.
It's working out so far.
Gosh, this is a tough question that doesn't have a good specific answer. I mean, I'm kind of extra feeling this the last few months as well.
Yeah.
Of like the more time I spend on social media, the angrier I feel. And there's a real balancing act there of like, I need to feel like I know what's going on in the world, but also this is clearly not doing anybody any good.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. I see like ice cap data and I'm like, well, I need to go do something else. I need to touch grass for a little while. Mm-hmm. I think reading is good.
Reading's good.
I like reading.
Yes. I've been rediscovering my Kindle, even though I'm increasingly feeling like I made a mistake getting a new Kindle instead of getting a Kobo.
I looked at getting a Kobo when it was time to replace our Kindles, and getting books, it was challenging outside of the library context.
Interesting. The San Francisco Library is a big part of it for me. They are moving away from the system that let you put books on a Kindle and moving toward one that is compatible with Kobos. So that's part of it.
There you go.
Books are good.
I mean, look, I've been one of the things I've noticed this week is I've done about 10 times as much walking as I normally do on any given week when we were hiking all over DC, and my mental state is much better when I'm outside and going on walks and doing things, even if they're not particularly taxing, even if it's just walking a mile and then walking back. Has been pretty good. So
I don't know. I didn't think to mention that because I have also been walking a ton. I've been super hardcore trying to lose some weight and get more fit. Mm-hmm. I probably walked like 20 miles this week.
Nice.
That was like an edge case. We had some amazing weather while you were gone. Actually,
really,
you missed a 3-4 day window of just like 75 and not a cloud in the sky for like half of a week.
That sounds great.
I walked 13 miles in 2 days, I think.
That's pretty good. We're like walking down to the park and stuff.
Yeah, I have access to a lot of parks around here, Golden Gate and otherwise, so that helps.
Yeah,
a lot of podcasts. Doing a lot of podcast listening lately. This is maybe there's another Patreon episode topic. Getting podcasts onto an Apple Watch is a goddamn nightmare.
The Overcast works reasonably well, but only if you want to do like one podcast.
Even that is rough, man. And I think it's Apple's fault. All the apps blame Apple for the way that the Apple Watch is able to download data. It's a nightmare.
It's still kind of just like a viewer, basically, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like you kind of can't add them on the watch. You have to sync from a phone, but then getting it to sync reliably is a nightmare.
Do you not take your phone with you when you go on a walk?
No, that's the whole thing I'm trying to avoid is I don't want a big expensive thing bouncing around in my pocket.
So what do you have cell on your watch?
No.
So what if you need help?
Probably
work yourself out.
I don't tend to walk places where there are not people around.
Okay.
I guess is what I'm relying on.
Fair.
Anyway.
Carry a backpack or anything?
No.
Okay.
I tried using an armband for the phone. Even that was kind of a pain.
Oh, yeah, those annoy me.
Like the watch, like the Bluetooth is rock solid. Like the little dial is a volume knob. Like it works great as a podcast player. It's just getting the damn podcast on there.
I have a pair of Fabletics like walking/jogging shorts that have like a compression inner and then just normal shorts on the outside. And the compression part has a phone slot that just holds it right up against my leg. And I usually wear those.
Oh,
if I'm going someplace I don't want the phone bopping around.
You know what else I'll say? I mean, I guess there's do not disturb for this, but it's also nice to just leave the phone at home.
See,
it's kind of nice to just go out for 45 minutes or an hour and not have a thing buzzing in your pocket and not even have the option to look at it.
See, I have the focus thing set to just, I have one focus that's like literally no one can bother me.
Yeah, but you still might.
I have pretty good self-control. I also am often with my daughter or something. So we're chatting and I don't think about it.
Yeah. Fair.
Here, let me show. Here's the shorts. They're good.
Pause for
Pause for shorts looking.
Pause for me to paint a word picture of your shorts. I don't know.
I'm hold on. I'm almost there. Why is it giving me this? This is annoying. I don't want to give you personal details. I just want to see the pants.
We should save this for after the episode.
God damn it.
My other answer to this question is it'll work itself out, which is not a satisfying answer, but like you don't know what you want until you find it, right? Or like you don't know what you don't know, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like there are communities out there, there are platforms brewing, there are all kinds of things that are going to happen on the internet as these shitty corporate platforms blow it.
Yeah.
That you don't know about yet that you are going to stumble on. The thing, and some of it just takes some time and some legwork and some bouncing around as things catch your interest. The
thing I'll say is that like I'm getting different parts of the things that I used to get from social media and Reddit and all those places in different places. Like I get the sense of community from Discord, and I like that. I like the Discord community much better than the kind of weird community and like hanging out with your friends in public that we used to do on Twitter in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Right. Like,
yeah,
like I distinctly remember having conversations on Twitter with friends that I would normally have had in IM or something, but IM had gone away by then. And you'd just be blasting messages back and forth to each other across like on a public message board, basically. And that felt fine for a while. And then once you crossed a certain threshold in terms of number of people that were also following both of you, and you realized that like you were having this conversation, there were 5,000 people kind of watching in, which is fine. It's how that stuff was set up. And I hadn't really internalized what that meant and how that impacted me. And it changed the way I talk to my friends, and that sucked. So having a place that I can have like, feel like I'm a part of these larger communities, like our community and the Nextlander community and the my Twitch community and my Anacrusis community and stuff like that. And then also have smaller areas where I can just chat with my very close friends about stuff that I don't want to be public. Turns out it's really good. And it works really well for me. And I quite like it.
I have one more question.
Yes.
What if we all go back to IRC?
I don't have to deal with net splits, man.
Oh man. That was the fun part.
So much drama.
Channel wars were the fun part. Anyway, I don't think IRC is not going anywhere.
No, I mean, God, I feel like funny because when we started ours, we used ICQ, and then they moved back to IRC around the time I left, and just set up a private IRC server that they've used, I think, ever since, until Slack came along, probably. And I'm not sure that Slack is better than just using IRC. Yeah,
I tend to agree. I still have my old ICQ data files, and I wonder sometimes if there's any way to extract whatever's in there.
1129645. It's probably just text. It's probably just uncompressed flat text.
You think?
Yeah, I bet it's something. I bet it's like I bet you can parse it out real easily.
I think I have logs of ICQ from like the late 90s.
I bet you talk about Quake a lot.
You know, I might be better off not reading those, actually.
Yeah.
Unless I want to die of embarrassment.
Look, Brad, it's time to do the patron episode where we just read your old ICQ logs.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I sent you the picture of the shorts in the Discord, though.
Should I comment on them? Oh, wow. Those are some shorts. All right.
Yeah. So they're super comfy.
Those look tight.
The inside's tight. It feels nice.
Okay.
But there's no friction between the outside pants and the inside pants. And then you do have to do an uncomfortable kind of pull up your pants leg movement to get the phone out, which strongly dissuades you from pulling the phone out unless it's something actually important.
Good point. I can see the appeal there.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't have the pink and blue ones, but that's the color that came up.
Oh, look, it's nice.
I think mine might be a little shorter too.
I like a nice pastel.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we call it?
Can we do this Fishy J one about cables? I feel like we've talked about cables a lot over the years.
I think we may have covered this before, but yeah, we can revisit. Fishy J. Carefully organize and store old cables, or purge everything responsibly and buy new cables as needed.
I do
organize
both.
And store. Wait, how can you do both?
So I have a certain number of like the common things, right? Like I always have a couple extra USB-C to USB-C, USB-C to USB-A. There's always one micro USB, one mini USB at least. Turns out I hardly ever need micro USB anymore at this point, which is nice. So it's
Fair.
mostly Lightning and USB-C.
Mhm.
And the question is, do I have USB-A to USB-C or do I have USB-C to USB-C? And I've just started putting adapters that go both ways in my go bag for cables, and that solves that problem.
Yes, that's a good strategy for sure.
The bummer is all of my battery packs are USB-A plugs. So, and they're still good and they'll be good for a long time. So I'm just going to keep using adapters, I think, for them. Anyway.
I think we are finally fully into the transition. I think that USB-A is, I mean, except for the situations where USB-A is never going away, but the places where it is, it's going to start going away pretty rapidly.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then I have a drawer full of weird cables. I always have like a spare XLR because they tend to erode over time. I have a spare like HDMI, but I got rid of all of the bad HDMIs and I just bought one good, whatever the current HDMI 17.3 or whatever it is. I have one display port, same.
That's probably sound. I would say the one type of cable that I definitely hoard too much of is HDMI.
Yeah, well, you use HDMIs a lot more than I do, I think, too.
It's true, I do, but I still don't need like 25 extras.
No. And then I have the weird cables, like like the stuff that my old DV camera uses FireWire 800 to FireWire 400, and I have some of those cables around just in case I need, for whatever reason, to get stuff off of FireWire. I don't even know how I would do that now. I think I had a card. I think my last computer had a FireWire port probably, or 2 computers ago.
You never know. You never know. I don't want to say hoarding cables, but stockpiling cables, let's see, as I do.
Yeah.
And having organized them even a little bit has like really saved my ass a few times in the last year or two. My girlfriend has this concept of shopping at home. I don't know if she got that from somewhere.
Like that she goes into the closet and the deep storage and goes shopping for things.
Yes. Like she's big on concept, stocking up on stuff and just having it around, whether it's non-perishables or like toiletries, stuff like that.
I love that. See, we have the exact opposite strategy here and it makes me crazy.
I mean, you have to be careful. It is possible to overbuy and then just let stuff sit around too long or whatever.
I mean, the toilet paper is not going to go bad though.
Like that became interesting when the pandemic hit because I still have like 2 unopened things of hair product that I don't know if I'll ever use. Fair. For example, when I stopped using hair products,
since you stopped leaving the house. Yeah.
Yes. Not the end of the world.
You could just mohawk. You could go full height mohawk, like a 6 foot mohawk.
You know, I probably should do that at some point.
I think that'd be amazing.
But I kind of have ended up falling backwards into doing that with cables and stuff. To the point that like I've got a USB drawer, a video cable drawer, an audio cable drawer. I needed a couple of USB extension cables a few months ago. And I like started going to Amazon. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to wait a couple days and get these extension cables. And then I was like, wait a minute. I went and searched my Monoprice order history. Sure enough, found like 2 of the exact cable I needed that I had bought and never used. And then I knew that I had them. I was like, okay, there it is right in my order history from like 4 years ago. Went in that drawer and sure enough, they were in there unused and I just pulled them right out and used them.
There you go. It's funny. I have a bunch of stuff like that because when we were doing the food stuff, I had a bunch of I had to buy a bunch of extender cables for similar, like just so I'd have them when we were on a shoot or something someplace. And as a result, there's a shitload of them just like kind of bopping around. But I've electronics recycled a lot of cables in the last year just so that they're out of my way.
What do you do for e-waste? Do you have
on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, you can take them to the recycling yard in Pacifica and they'll just take them. There's a big tub.
You're dropping off. I see.
I'm dropping off.
That's more trivial when you have a car, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
we've been looking into like e-waste pickups and those are rare.
Yeah.
Like the county or the city or whoever handles garbage sure won't take that stuff.
No, usually there's so there is a neighborhood one once or twice a year here that they do it like one of the local elementary schools on a Saturday morning and you just roll in with your old computers and stuff and they'll haul them off. But yeah, that's it. I think that's it for me.
Yeah. Let's call it.
That's a lot of cues.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions, everyone.
I'm going to say Art Deco also.
Yeah. I thought I liked that question, except that I'm embarrassed to admit I couldn't like call to mind an image of Baroque decor.
Baroque is like, imagine Trump's like a penthouse in New York.
I knew like heavily detailed and ostentatious are probably the sort of key traits there. That's a better question. If you had to choose between Art Deco and Baroque styles, Which would you decorate your home with? Yeah, definitely Art Deco.
Yeah, Deco, like Empire State Building is fucking cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, like I feel like maybe for a while, I think this has maybe receded a little bit. Like BioShock made Art Deco like maybe a little bit cliche or trite, but
Maybe, yeah.
but Art Deco design and architecture are incredible still, I think. Like any of that kind of like, it's not retro futuristic, but like there's kind of a forward looking, almost utopian thing with Art Deco.
There's curves with Art Deco.
Yeah.
Art Deco has the good curves.
Like it feels like that early 20th century vision of the future stuff that is so cool.
Wait a second. Art Nouveau has the curves, right?
Oh, I think Art Deco might have some. Yeah, like doesn't the Empire State Building has?
No, I like the Chrysler Building.
Okay.
It turns out.
I am definitely not qualified to talk about architecture. Looking at pictures of Art Nouveau.
Yeah, I think I like Art Nouveau better than Art Deco, but I definitely like Art Deco than Baroque.
Oh no, I 100% take Art Deco over Nouveau from what I'm looking at here.
Oh,
that's too curvy. Look,
Yeah.
I liked Quake 3, but not that much.
When I go to the Art Deco Wikipedia page, the first thing is a picture of the Chrysler Building. So I was wrong. I like Art Deco. I always get Art Deco and Art Nouveau mixed up.
I'm just going to look for Baroque architecture real quick. Although he was asking more about decor than architecture, right?
Yeah, but same thing. So decor.
Really. Well, I mean, architecture's on the outside, and
it can be on the inside too.
The decor is what you put inside the architecture.
That's true.
Okay. Yes. Looking at Baroque stuff. Yeah. That's very French monarchy looking stuff. Right.
Yep. If you want to look at a chair that's going to get your head chopped off in the French Revolution, go Baroque.
Yeah. I'm good.
I lost my Patreon tab, unfortunately.
Crap. Am I going to have to keep talking about architecture?
Wait, found it.
Okay.
Brad, we've reached the portion of the show where we thank our patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons. It's the end of the month, which means we're going to thank a whole bunch of patrons this month, but we're going to start, as always, with the executive producer tier patrons. If you would like to find out how to become one of our patrons, you can go to patreon.com/techpod. And for $5 a month, you get access to the fabulous patron episode, which we do every month, as well as the TechPod Discord, which is full of beautiful nerds who talk about really good stuff. I've been away from the Discord. I was mostly offline while I was gone, and it was nice to come back to the Discord. It's like a warm embrace of a wide variety of topics I'm interested in. And then also we're talking about war in Russia. So
yes.
That's it. You can go to patreon.com/techpod. And we would like to thank our executive producer tier patrons, including Andrew Slosky, CHMod plus X Bunny Crimes. Pretty good one. Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, David Allen, James Kamek, Joel Krauska, Just Weege. An extra E in there this month. You almost got me.
Whoa.
Nick Johnston and Twinkie 2077 2.0 exclamation point.
I can't say for sure, but it's possible that Ouija, today is the first day I ever heard the word or the syllable Ouija in any form whatsoever.
Ooh, you think?
No, wait. Ouija board, I guess. Even though it's not spelled remotely the same, but I guess that is how people say that.
No. And then since it's the end of the month, we also want to thank our associate producer tier patrons, including Alejandra Navarro, Andre M. Burke, Arthur Geese, Ben Tallman, Dave Ulian, Eric Klein, Graham Banks, Jad Rita, Jason Rooney the Ref, Jay Maybe, Matt Walker, Walkman 8080, Nathan Phelps, Sanchit Kumar, Steve Lynn, Thomas Shea, and Tom Hilton. Thank you also so much.
Yeah, thank you. We could not do it without you.
We quite literally could not do it without you. So that'll do it for us this month. We will be back next week with another episode of Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. The Bluetooth trifecta.
Wait, it's up to 3 now?
I think it has to be 3 episodes.
3
That's what we talked
episodes?
about. Yeah. I don't think we're not going to do them back to back. We wouldn't submit anybody to that.
I literally just bought a new cheap pair of wireless earbuds for exercise.
Ooh.
And spent some time staring at Bluetooth codecs, audio codecs, going like, should I try to get the one that's got aptX? Or is SBC or AAC enough? I'm sure we'll cover it.
Look, if you want to talk about some audio stuff that's out of spec, I used the kiddo and I watched some Stranger Things episodes on my iPad using the share audio thing on the newer AirPods and newer iDevices. And that, like, you just hold up the AirPod case to the iPad and it's like, oh yeah, okay, press the button on the back and I'll connect it. That's fine. And then when you disconnect, it goes back to normal and just connects back to her thing. It was really cool.
Wow.
Everybody had independent volume controls. It was really nice. But yeah, we'll be back next week with another episode of Brad and Will Made a Tech Bot. I don't think it's gonna be the Bluetooth one next week, but maybe the week after.
Yeah,
is where I'm kind of feeling like now.
Maybe we'll talk about weird internet.
Yeah, weird internet's good.
You've got. Well, we talked about weird internet of certain kind today, but we're talking more connection type stuff with your Diablo on a plane and your Starlink and stuff.
We might need more time for that.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
I want to do some 5G stuff too. Anyway, be back next week. See y'all then. Have a lovely week.